Wow, it's been a while since I have recorded a podcast, specifically a solo podcast. I graduated from my PhD program, which is the biggest update. I officially got the degree last month, and I'll be attending a graduation ceremony in 2 weeks, which I'm really excited about. It doesn't really feel real because I've been in this PhD program for the past 5 years. I started in September 2020 and now it is March 2025. Yeah, it was a long 5 years, to be very honest. But I've been called to share sort of the growth that I've experienced the past specifically 6 months and the transitions that I've been quite a lot of difficulty in. I also want to have this podcast be the intention to be something where I can be honest with my feelings and my story. And I hope that whoever hears this, it serves you in some way. So let's dive in. Okay, so I just shared I graduated from my PhD program in international relations from Waseda University in Tokyo, Japan. So I think I want to start out this share by explaining about my research project, because this actually ties into my background and identity and a big part of the message I want to communicate today, actually. So my research. Okay. So my research focuses on broadly the U.S. Japan political relationship. Okay, so let's start out with the way I discovered my case in U.S. Japan relations. Okay, so in March 11th, 2011, which was actually 3 days ago, there was a huge catastrophic earthquake and tsunami that hit the northeastern region of Japan. That region is called the Tohoku region, for those of you that aren't that familiar with Japan. And this was a devastation. Over 20,000 people lost their lives in the tsunami. There was also, it wasn't just an earthquake and tsunami, but on top of that, there was also a nuclear radiation disaster in Fukushima. Okay, so it wasn't just one disaster, it was disasters, plural. And this is also personal to me because I have family. My Japanese family is from Sendai, which is in Miyagi Prefecture, which is in the Tohoku region of Japan. My mom, I get emotional still thinking about it and a little bit choked up thinking about it, but my mom was in Sendai during this time in 2011, because when I was about, let's say, around 12 years old, she decided to move back to Japan. We were all living in America during the time. And this is so funny. My mom is literally calling me on my phone right now. Wow. Well, I just said, that's crazy. Okay, I just hung up on her, but I'll call her back. That's crazy. But my mom was living in Sendai during this time, and she was safe, thank God. And also my Japanese family, they were all safe during this time. But after this day, March 11th, 2011, this really changed the lives of many people, many Japanese people, or just many people, whoever was living in Japan during that time, especially people that were living in the Tohoku region. Okay, so going back to my research, I learned about this operation, this military operation that took place after the disasters called Operation Tomodachi. And Tomodachi translates to friendship in Japanese. And Operation Tomodachi was basically this joint military project between the U.S. military and the Japanese Self-Defense Forces. So the U.S. military and the Japanese Self-Defense Forces worked together in this joint military effort to help support and to help give humanitarian relief to victims of the Tohoku region. And this has never ever happened before. Specifically Japan, there's not technically a military that can use force, but it's called the Self-Defense Forces. It could use defense if anything happened in Japan. And the military, the US military, has many bases throughout the country, especially in Okinawa. This military operation between the Japanese Self-Defense Forces and the U.S. military has never been done before. It was a historic project. And in the eyes of many, many people, especially Japanese people, it was seen as a large success. And also in the eyes of the Japanese government and the U.S. government, it was seen as this big, big success. And so from there, because of the success of this military operation, the Japanese Self-Defense Forces and the U.S. military, because this operation was helping specifically Tohoku victims, they wanted to create an organization based off the strength of this military operation that can keep supporting Tohoku victims, especially Tohoku youth, young people. And so the U.S. Embassy in Japan and also the Japanese government and also this organization called the U.S. Japan Council, with all those forces coming together, created the Tomodachi Initiative in 2012, which was based off of the success of Operation Tomodachi. And the Tomodachi Initiative is essentially a public-private partnership that facilitates programs for young Japanese and American students, and also you don't have to be a student, you can be out of college. It facilitates these exchanges, educational programs, leadership programs for young Japanese and American people that are interested in contributing to the U.S. Japan relationship. It used to be just focused on Tohoku youth, but it then transitioned into an overall U.S. Japan relationship building organization. My research project specifically focused on interviewing people in this network, interviewing people part of the Tomodachi Initiative, the U.S. Embassy, the U.S. Japan Council, to hear about how they perceive and imagine the U.S. Japan relationship. And this project really was based off of that initial interest on Tohoku and this joint military operation turned U.S. Japan relationship building organization for young people. So that was just a lot. That was a lot. So that's a glimpse into my research project. As a Japanese American mixed multiracial person and someone that does have personal ties to Sendai, a city in the Tohoku region, my research interests are very connected to my personal identity and personal story. Okay, so the research part of it was actually really, really fun. And because it was quite personal, I really felt like I was able to learn more about my greater interest in relationships between two very different forces, like the US and Japan. Because I was raised by a Japanese mother and an American father, and I was always very interested in that relationship. So I think just naturally, I became interested in the overall U.S.-Japan alliance and relationship because it's kind of looking from, it's like micro to macro, right? So the research was really fun. However, those of you that have been in academia or have ever written a long thesis or a book, you know how stressful and tiring it can be. I definitely experienced high amounts of stress, I would say burnout, specifically at the end of the writing stage. So that was like this past summer in June. I did not think I would be able to finish. There was many times that I was like, no way can I finish this. I want to quit. And if it wasn't for the support system in my life, I would not have been able to complete that dissertation. No way. I don't believe that I would have been able to. So I think that what was really, really challenging was the question of who am I really doing this for? Is it really for myself or is it for someone else? And what I've come to recognize is that my mom definitely had a large influence on my decision in doing this PhD and considering higher education and academia as a career. So my mom was also a professor, and I grew up going to university classes with her at the University of Montana in Missoula, where I was raised, and I would love watching her teach and lecture, and I definitely felt the feeling of, that's my mom. Like, she's so cool. And her students loved her. She was just radiating and so powerful in front of all of her students. And I thought that was such an incredible way that she was able to shine. She did contribute a lot to this feeling of wanting to go into higher education. And then when I got into maybe year 2 of the PhD program, I was thinking, ooh, I feel like something is missing. Something doesn't feel totally aligned or authentic. And that's when I really wanted to discover more of who I am, like who I am, taking away all of the degrees and taking away all of my roles and my past understandings of who I thought I was. Like, I really wanted to get more clear on who is Nina behind all of it, the mask, all of it. And I went really inward, and I went on a meditation retreat in 2020, right before COVID got really bad. It was 10 days of silence. And that experience really showed me how jumpy the mind can be. It also showed me how much pain I had, unresolved pain and unresolved tension and unprocessed emotions I had. And from there, I discovered coaching, and I got certified in coaching, and that's really what I feel like is the most me. Like, when I am coaching and when I'm in these spaces where I am helping people with their growth and working towards their dreams and realizing their fullest potential, like, that's where I feel the most Nina. And so in 2022, when I was about halfway through the PhD program, I was like, oh wow, this is what it feels like to feel aligned and really happy and really satisfied with what I'm doing. Like, this feels so purposeful and intentional. Although I had moments during the PhD where I thought, wow, this is really exciting, the learning aspect of a research project and the putting the puzzle pieces together is really great, but it didn't always feel like something that really made me feel fulfilled. And that's something that is still really hard to reconcile with, because for the longest time, I thought I wanted to be a professor. I thought I wanted this. I thought I wanted this to be my thing, just like it was for my mom. So discovering this coaching world and contrasting that with higher education, it was a big challenge from 2023 onwards, because I had this new sort of life I was leading, and I had so much excitement and energy towards this part of my life, but like a lack of energy towards the PhD and my project. And there's so much push and pull, like tug of war between the two, like my heart saying no, focus on coaching and quit the PhD, and then my logic in mind was like, no, just finish the degree, like get it, you're almost there. And I'm happy that I finished, because I think in all of the resistance and all of the sort of the noises and the voices of my family members and the people around me, I really had to get still, and I really had to come back to myself. And that's something that's really hard to do when you're used to living a life that is so influenced by what other people say you should do. This has been a major journey for me in returning back to myself and returning back to what I feel like is true to me. Not what's true to my mom, not what's true to my friend or my professor, like what is actually true for me. And that is like the biggest gift that I learned throughout this PhD, and the tension and the resistance and all of the all of those negative emotions, I really learned about myself deeper. And from there, I also discovered my love for coaching and healing and growth work. And that's just been such a gift, like such a big gift to have something that you're passionate about and to have something that you're so excited to return to day after day. So coming back to now, that was sort of I would say, high level share of what's been happening and what I've been feeling. But coming back today, I am working part-time at a university in Tokyo, and I'm also working part-time as a coach and, working one-on-one with individuals and also facilitating group experiences, group coaching experiences for people, like retreats and workshops. And what I've been learning is, although the coaching work does light me up more than higher ed and academia, I'm finding that with teaching specifically, when I'm teaching my courses and working with students, I see a lot of connections between coaching and teaching. And I feel like that's been really great to sort of bridge the two worlds by. And sometimes with students, I sometimes feel like I'm coaching them as well, because the students I work with, mostly first, second year students, like 18 to 21 years old, they're also figuring out life, figuring out their path afterwards, figuring out what major do I want to choose. And it just feels so fulfilling to be able to create a space where students feel like they can open up to me about the struggles and about wanting to, make their parents happy, but also wanting to make themselves happy. I relate so deeply, so deeply. That's where I'm at right now. And if I can just really send home the message that I wanted to convey in this episode, it is, you're not going to make everyone happy in your life. That's impossible, especially your parents. And that's okay. The most important relationship that we have in our lives is the relationship we have with ourselves. And I really learned that the past few years, but especially the past half of year, finishing up this dissertation and really having to come back to myself, practicing self-love and compassion when times got really hard, regulating my nervous system, sharing and opening up to the people in my life, not suppressing it. There's a reason that this really difficult chapter happened in my life, especially the past 6 months. I will definitely want to share more specifics of that story later on. And again, the message I really want to say is, like, if you're in the thick of some kind of obstacle, challenge, a chapter where you're like, what the hell? Why? Like, why, God? Why are you doing this to me? Like, am I ever going to get out of this? First off, I feel you. And if there's a way that you can create the space to connect with yourself, and just try to listen to those intuitive messages, or to develop a connection with something greater than yourself. That's what really got me through one of the most difficult chapters of my life so far, this degree and what came from it. I'm really, really excited for what's to come. Really proud of myself for accomplishing something that I did not think I would be able to. And I'm ready to share my voice more, to share openly, unapologetically, honestly. I know my purpose is to be the embodiment of love and wisdom, and that's my dharma, that's my purpose. And I know my purpose is also to help others discover that light and love and passion and excitement within. So if you've been following my journey and been listening to the podcast, thank you. And I hope to really bring more stories, bring on guests that also have incredible insights and wisdom to share. And I'm really, really excited for what's to come, especially excited to not be a student anymore. I'm Nina. I'm graduated. I'm gonna make a difference in this world. I really feel that. Life is crazy and life is beautiful, y'all. That's what I gotta say. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next time on another episode of The Light of Insight.